October is unfortunately over and we are 1 month closer to the end of the year. Consider this your not so scheduled reminder that time flies and you're getting old super fast. Hey, don't look at me like that. Don't shoot the messenger. I had this realization just now and I sure as hell wasn't gonna suffer alone, okay? We all know October as the spooky month, due to a certain special date that happens on the 31st of the month. Now, I'll have you know, I don't normally take the spookiness to heart and just instead play whatever seems interesting to me. However, out of the many excellent indie games that have been released in October, most of the ones I was interested in just happen to be horror games. 3 out of 5 in the selection, to be precise. Well, 3 out of 7 if you consider the intro and outro games, which I never talk about but enjoy just as much. Despite the similarity in the overarching genre, I think you'll quickly realize that these 3 horror games have different premises from each other and mostly don't rely on jump scares, which I love. So hopefully, despite horror dominating this month's selection, you'll find something that you can enjoy. And if you do, but you're worried about your funds, rejoice! Some of these titles are even free! Last but not least, my usual disclaimer. These titles are absolutely must-plays, but only in my opinion. At the end of the day, tastes vary and you might enjoy something I normally don't and vice versa. Regardless, I do hope you'll find something here for you. Anyway, let's jump into it. You know, living in an urban jungle, there are many things I don't ever really see. Or feel, I guess. Things such as clean air, empty roads, a sense of community with the neighbors, list goes on. This is precisely why Leaf Blower Man has been such an eye-opening experience for me. I had never heard of, and would likely never have until it was too late, about the extremely dangerous artifacts known as the Leaf Blower. When I started playing this game, I wondered why folks where I live just use brooms to sweep the sidewalk and get rid of leaves instead of using such a revolutionary device. At the end of my time with this game, I found out exactly why. You do not mess with the leaf blower, even if by accident. Made by the team behind the excellent Rain on Your Parade, which I highly recommend you check out, Leaf Blower Man is an extremely charming game that has you playing as a worker trying to rid the world of its fallen leaves. The game can be divided into 2 main parts. The first has you controlling your character from an isometric perspective and using your leaf blower to, well, blow leaves into your goal zone. You can also throw objects, people, and much more because, well, why not? You even get extra points for being a public menace. How cool is that? As for the second game mode, it's a horde mode akin to Vampire Survivors and it's actually pretty competent. You basically fight hordes of leaves that are closing in on you by moving around while your weapons auto-shoot. Collecting EXP has you gaining levels to unlock or upgrade weapons. The game lasts 1 hour tops and as you might be able to tell, it's pretty simple, but it's so much fun. The gameplay never has a dull moment, with constant surprises, minigames and challenges popping up. Throughout your game, you'll end up dodging an asteroid field, thwarting a robbery, and much more. The game also doesn't take itself seriously at all, which may make or break the title for some of you. See, it employs a very silly and cheesy type of humor. It's right up my alley, but it sure as hell won't be up everyone's alleys. This is mostly seen during the game's many skippable, well, let's call them real-life cutscenes. I'm being vague because they were kept as a surprise by the devs, but play the game for 10 minutes and you'll see what I mean, and find out really quickly if this game is something you'd enjoy or not. The game is free, so, you know, there's really no excuse not to try it out. This is quite possibly the most unique game on this list, which is absolutely one of the best compliments I could give to a title. Look, this game keeps crashing as soon as I turn on OBS game capture, which is why the footage is a bit cut on the right side. The UI in this game feels like a mess at first glance, and so does the options menu. Things can be a bit confusing and the game could absolutely use some quality of life improvements. But despite all that, I just cannot stop playing World of Horror. This game is just incredibly charming, I think. There's no other way I can think to put it. Not the cutesy charming, but rather an experience that charms me such that I keep playing with that one more run thought process. The game is described by the devs as a 1-bit love letter to Junji Ito and H.P. Lovecraft, which I consider to be some of the best and most influential horror authors around, so it already won me there. But then, you get to the actual mysteries. The game's basic mode is a roguelite. There's a god threatening your town and you must solve 5 unconnected mysteries to beat the god, and thus the game. Well, until you unlock the other modes anyway. There are some 20 mysteries and each has multiple possible endings according to your choices. The selection is pretty good as well, with examples such as contagious coma patients and that one Japanese urban legend about the girl that asks if she's pretty before using scissors to carve your face. When you choose your mystery, you have to select a destination you want to visit and explore it. The game circles the correct destination, so there's no challenge on that front. Exploring isn't challenging either, the game just shows a basic animation of your character walking before you run into a random event. You might have been able to figure that out by now, but the game is more or less a very old school point-and-click adventure. You don't move your character, you just pick whatever option you want and interact with the UI to inspect items, equip stuff, etc. There's even combat in this game. There's a lot I could say about how this game works, such as the fact that it is pretty challenging, if it manages to do what it set out to, etc. But I try to keep things short in this video, so I'll stop there. Please just go look at an in-depth review of the game if you find any of what you saw and heard here interesting. Just remember to try to find a recent one, as the game just came out of early access. With phenomenal art style, incredibly fitting soundtrack, and many hours of cool mysteries to solve, this really ended up being one of my favorite titles this year, despite the many issues I had with it. If you do pick it up, I hope you enjoy it too. VHS, VCR. These are terms that, much to my dismay, the youngest amongst you may not even know exist. If that's the case for you, Teleforum will not only be a damn good horror experience, but also a great way to learn about how the late 80s and early 90s operated. Well, VCRs and VHS tapes were around for much longer, but this game specifically does not take place any further than the early 90s, which is why I chose the dates I did. Teleforum is a found footage styled horror game that explores the unknown side of media. Developers' words, not mine. The story goes that a journalist called Walter Martins ended his life during the broadcast of the titular Teleforum, a now cancelled TV program. Juliana, a journalist in the same TV network who's looking for a breaking story, takes a cameraman, that's you, to the apartment of Walter's grieving widow. Do we hope for fame? Fortune? A scoop? Absolutely, but those are only secondary goals. As the Steam store page puts it, you're really there for the tape, aren't you? I understand what I just said may be cryptic, but I really can't be more specific without spoiling the incredible job the developers did to build this title. The game is absolutely fantastic at exposing its narrative, and the delivery is nearly impeccable. The sound design is top tier and works together with the dialogue, scenery, and overall visuals to create a really creepy atmosphere. The game is also short, clocking in at 20 minutes for one ending, maybe 1 hour, 2 tops if you're particularly slow to replay the amount of times needed to get all the endings. This is also why I don't really mind not giving you details of the story. All it takes is 20 minutes for you to get the gist of it, and if you're anything like me, be hooked. The gameplay is basically point-and-click style, except with a lot less puzzles. You just click through dialogues, choose your options, and click areas of the screen to investigate specific objects. There might not be much to the gameplay, but what is there is absolutely enough to give you lots of options on how to end your tale. The game's been playing on screen the whole time, so this video should give you an idea of what to expect. Last but certainly not least, I just wanted to highlight 2 things. 1, this game is free, so again, there's no excuse not to give it a shot. And 2, this game was made by developers from my country, Brazil. It's really cool to see games from here get international recognition, and this one absolutely deserves it. If you're a horror fan and you have 20 minutes to spare, give Teleforum a shot. I really don't think you'll regret it. Time to take a break from your regularly scheduled horror games of the month with a relaxing title in which you'll manage and connect railways. I know traffic management is almost a different sort of horror in some games like City Skylines, but trust me, this one really is just relaxing. Station to Station is a game in which you create stations and tracks between them. Each station has to be connected to one or more landmarks, such as a city. These all either provide or need resources, and your goal is to connect them all so that no landmark is in need of any specific resource. Things are not quite as easy as they may seem from my description though. In each level, you get a certain amount of money to spend on your infrastructure. Run out and you're sorta screwed, really. You can't demolish tracks that are already completed, so your only option is to reload the checkpoint or restart the level as a whole. Well, okay, I kinda lied. You can also just turn on an option that makes it so everything's free, so, money isn't a concern anymore. That's what makes this a certified relaxing experience. While there are puzzles, you can just choose not to engage with the punishing aspect of them and instead focus on creating cool train networks within each map. And yes, I said each map. The game has around 5 worlds, with some 5 or so maps within each world. Each map also has a specific number of buildings to connect, different starting money, all that jazz. And also different challenges. That's right, each level can have usually 2 optional challenges to complete and earn medals in. Some are easy, but some can indeed be quite tricky. These range from completing a level with a minimum of a certain amount of money to doing stuff like connecting 3 sources to a final recipient with a single train track line. As you can notice from this challenge I just mentioned, you have many ways to finish your goals and the mechanics do get quite deep and fun. For example, if point A has a resource that point C needs, you don't need to connect them directly. Instead, you can go through B. Another example is that you can optimize the maps by connecting fonts of resources together before connecting them all at the same time to the final destination. The more resources you connect to a destination at once, the bigger your bonus. And again, these are just examples. The more you play, the more you learn new tricks and things to keep in mind. It's really cool. In other aspects, the game's soundtrack is super chill and the voxel-based graphics are gorgeous to look at. In fact, after finishing a stage, I would often find myself just zooming in or out and looking at all the trains just doing their thing. There's enough content here for some 3 to 7 hours of gameplay, potentially more. I'm aware that's a wide range, but it really depends on how fast you can clear challenges, and that's if you even want to clear them. The game's not without its issues, such as the inability to fully plan what you want to do as the landmarks are unlocked in batches instead of all being available as you start a map, but honestly this is still really an enjoyable experience. Highly recommended. We all know that any game ever is made way better by the presence of a narrator. Games also tend to improve if you just get the chance to make your main character act like a dick. What do you mean I'm projecting? I promise you these are 2 things that people usually love, okay? And what do you get when you combine them both? You get a game in which you can be a dick to the narrator. And no, I'm not talking about the Stanley Parable, although that game is incredible. Slay the Princess is a horror visual novel that honestly may as well be within the comedy genre too. This game took a page out of books from classics like Mario by including a princess you must seek out, only to then burn that page to the ground by having you slay her instead of save her. And that's genuinely your goal. You start on a path in the woods, heading to a cabin to find a princess in the basement. You are to slay her, and failure will mean the end of the world. Or will it? Honestly, this is a title that benefits from me talking as little as possible about it, which is also why I'm choosing to show some trailer footage instead of my unsourced footage in this section of the video. Just know that this game has many possible endings and routes, none of which are very long. And the way to get there is literally by using your own brain, really. Why should you listen to a disembodied voice telling you to go kill a random lady? On the flip side, why shouldn't you? What else can you even do? The way you act or don't in these questions is via a simple choice. You get a list of options outlining what you're about to say or do and you choose from them. Some of them have tags such as Explore, which give context to what you're about to do or say. The Explore tag, for example, usually means you're just asking questions for more information. And that's it for the gameplay, as it really is a visual novel. You click whatever options you want, you progress through the incredibly gorgeous backgrounds, and most importantly, you read or listen to the consequences of your actions. And yes, I said listen. Aside from counting on a great soundtrack, incredible animations and black and white art, as well as having potentially the best writing and narrative I've seen this year, this game has really good voice acting on every single line. I'll let you listen to it a little bit now.
You're here to slay her.
Wait, what?
If you don't, it will be the end of the world.
Now hold on a second. Don't you listen to him? What did I ever do to you?
She will do everything in her power to stop you.
Well, yeah. I don't want to die.
If you're wondering how long this game will last you, anywhere from 3 to 10 hours. I have even seen people reaching 15. It really depends on how much content you want to experience, if you want to read at your own speed or wait for each character to finish talking, amongst others. But even if you play as little as 3 hours, I promise you, it will be worth it. Slay the Princess is easily one of my favorite games this year.
If you try, I'll kill you.
And with that, we have reached the end of this little list. Every month, the toughest challenge is to both find the time to play some 10 or so indie releases in the month, and also to get the selection down to the 5 I'd like to share. These videos are a lot more work than I thought when I was the one watching other people make them, but they are also incredibly fun to make, so, you know, it all balances out. And yes, I'm saying a bunch of stuff that really doesn't matter in order to give the 7th game playing right now in the background time to win your hearts. If you have any suggestions, or if you feel like I missed an important indie game, please do let me know and I'll check it out. At the end of the day, all I want is to talk and learn more about games, so I'm down for anything. I hope this list helped you find something you might want to play, and if it did, make sure to let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, if it was useful to you, please do leave a like and subscribe, as both actions really help out my channel. But above all else, drop a comment with your thoughts, I love hearing about them. That aside, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you hopefully in the next video. Bye bye!